It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine?
Hey everybody. So, this is a different type of film that I'm seeing tonight. Uh, Wife's out of town and other people are doing stuff, and I just wanted to get out of the house. But it's a movie I wanted to see, and so it's definitely worth it for me. I'm going to go see A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. If you listen to the other podcast that I do, which is It Be Like That, we talked about it recently, like a bunch of things that you didn't know about Fred Rodgers. And I have a big experience with him in terms of, growing up, watching the show, and I always tell this fucking story, and if you've heard it before, oh well, you've heard it before. But when I was young, it's one of my earliest memories I can remember, and I was watching an episode, and he was going to take everybody to the zoo. Well, take everybody to the zoo. And so he said, okay, don't forget to pack a lunch. So I went and I woke up my mother, who was sleeping, and went into the bedroom and said, Mom, you got to pack me a lunch because Mr. Rogers is going to take us to the zoo today. And then, she not reluctantly, but she did it for me, as a thing for her loving child. But even though I'd woken her up before she had to go to work, before she was going to drop us off over at my grandmother's place, and I just always loved the dude. There's so many cool things about the guy, and he's just was always seen as that, genuine guy, that he's just kind and caring. And from how he, when he went and he saved PBS, and again, if you've never seen that video, please do yourself a favor and watch it. It's fantastic. But I've been, looking forward to this movie and decided, what the hell, I'm going to get out of the house, I'm going to go see it. I thought I could just wait till it got on regular TV, it's like, do I necessarily need to see it? But you know what the fuck, I'm going out, I'm going to do it. So, yeah, it's just going to be me, and I'll talk to you guys when I get back. Whether this will be in the car when I finish or it'll be at home, it's going to be determined how much I want to think about the movie after I have finished it. So it's great on a kind of a dreary, kind of rainy day, maybe even a rainy evening, maybe when I get out, but we'll see. So see you guys in a little bit. Okay, hey everybody. So I'm back from seeing A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. And okay, so I'm going to try to get through this whole thing without getting like teary-eyed or anything like that, because it is rough. And there goes Zach. Already had to delete one video because of him. Okay, so I want to talk about this, and I want to talk about it in a way that there's really nothing to give away, okay? So, but I'm still going to say that spoilers or whatever, maybe it goes across spoilers. And it's only because I have to talk about the film, I feel like, as a whole, rather than talking about the film in just like messages and codes. Because it really is it's a complete thing, and it's hard since it's based on a true story. It's not one of those films where it's like, oh, there's a surprise ending, or it's you have a lot of stuff that's going on and it's a mystery or whatever. Like if this was a review for Knives Out, it would be straight up just okay. It would straight up be just a review, and try not to give away anything, because I know that's like a murder mystery and stuff. But the thing is that the way that the film is done, it's wrapped around another story. So the original article, I can't remember the guy's last name. I think first name is Todd, but in this it's Lloyd. Basically spent some time with Mr. Rogers to write a paper, and it's an article, not a paper necessarily. I think in papers nowadays, because I deal with a bunch of science people with my job. But it's in this movie's for Esquire magazine, and I can't remember, or maybe I don't really know, because I'm not too familiar with the article itself. But I don't really know if that's the same magazine. Now, if it is, it's great. So that's something, and I'm pretty sure that they wouldn't just pick Esquire to be like, oh, well, we have to have a magazine and have a sponsor for this, so let's just fucking do it. So the thing is that, the movie, it wraps around two different things. It wraps around, you have Fred Rogers and a lot about him and his philosophies and everything like that. And then it wraps around a story about a guy that's dealing with the fact that his dad ran out on him when he was, wasn't super young, but at the point where his mother was dying, and he left right, literally right when she was dying. So he has a very big disdain for his father. So the bad things about the movie, as is like I said, I'm going to talk about some things. That part is honestly a little cheesy. It did get me. Now, I'm not going to be like one of these guys, oh, I didn't cry, because you probably, I don't know if you can tell on my face, my eyes are probably a little puffy as they are. But it really was like kind of groan worthy during those scenes where I was like, oh man, this is a little too much. You're laying on a little thick here. But then, so while he's dealing with that, because it opens with Mr. Rogers and it closes with Mr. Rogers, which is great. And the way that they do it, whenever they're doing like the Mr. Rogers type segments, it's reduced down to, standard definition TV on the screen. So it feels like you're watching a Mr. Rogers episode. So the whole movie is basically like one long Mr. Rogers episode, which is really fucking cool. Like, I like the way they do that stuff. And so it interjects these little transitions, which are awesome, where you see like the city of Pittsburgh and New York, and it's all done as like the little models that Mr. Rogers would have on the show. That's so fucking cool. Like, I was just absolutely blown away. And from the moment it started, and the music started playing, like the emotions in me all well up and the memories all come back. And it's just like, man, and the way they did that, it made me just so nostalgic and just happy, like, to be watching this. And then they would go to the scenes where, like, cause like he brings out like a picture board, right? And on the picture board, there's all these different pictures, and he shows a picture of Mr. McFeely and King Friday the 13th, and the lady that was, how am I totally missing on her name? But the lady sometimes goes in there and is in the land of make-believe and everything like that. And I'm sorry for the audio in the background of the dog drinking water. But so you have all of this going on, right? And then he opens one of the doors, and it's a picture of the reporter, and he's got a big giant scar across his nose and a black eye. And then it fades over to him, and he's accepting an award, and he's going to go see his sister for her wedding, like her second or third. They make a joke about that. And that's where they find out that his father's going to be there, which he still has this anger and this hatred for. And he, maybe not hatred, but I guess maybe it's just more anger that he's holding inside because of what happened with his father and his mom. And so, they go there, they meet up again, and then he punches him, father punches him, and that's how he got the scar. So, you basically are going through, and like I said, you're just interjecting little things. And then he's picked to write this piece on Fred Rogers because that's the only person that will talk to him. And he agrees to it, and you do find out later that Mr. Rogers read every single article that he's ever written, and to get a better feeling for him, and agreed to actually do this piece, and he really believes in the guy. And you get to see him on the set, you see him how he worked on the set. Tom Hanks is absolutely fantastic. I have kind of a weird relationship. I don't know, it's not a weird relationship, but the feelings I have towards Tom Hanks is that for me, he's really hit or miss. Like, I love the 80s comedies and some of the 90s stuff that he did. And then when he started doing more like serious roles, it was just kind of like, okay, some of it's cheesy. Like Forrest Gump, I really enjoy. And, Philadelphia, I really enjoyed. But there's some other movies that he's done where I'm just kind of like, I wish he would just do a silly, goofy comedy like Joe versus the Volcano once again. I enjoyed that side of you, and then it was just kind of like, but he is still a good actor, in general. So I was a little kind of like, okay, yeah, Tom Hanks is going to be Fred Rogers. I don't know how I feel about this, but it's nuts, especially when you first see him and he comes in and he's singing the "Won't You Be My Neighbor," the intro song, and he takes off the shoes and the way that he ties the shoes and the way that he just does everything. It's fucking Fred Rogers. I'm looking at Fred Rogers. He doesn't quite have the voice. It's there, but it kind of wanes here and there. And you can tell that it's, you also look at him as Tom Hanks, but it really, like, everything just kind of embodies the guy. And it's nuts to me. Like, I didn't think that it was going to be like that. Like, I didn't think I was going to have that reaction where at times I really felt like I was watching Fred Rogers on the goddamn screen instead of watching Tom Hanks. So, like I said, the little scenes in between, because honestly, and I know Tom Hanks gets top billing for this film, but it's not really his. It's the story of Lloyd, right? And him writing this paper, but not necessarily writing this article, but doing, like, coming to terms with his dad, because surprise surprise, you find out that his dad's dying, and that's why his dad wants to get back in touch with him and back in touch with his sister, and why he came to the wedding. And in that story, and him just, and even the beginning, he's like, when Mr. Rogers is talking to you, he's, I want to tell you about forgiveness and how and what it means, and how it's so difficult for some people to do it, but yet it's something that we should all do. And that philosophy of, like, teaching kids to deal with their emotions, and teaching kids about the hard things, teaching kids about death, teaching kids about something simple, like they use like hospital stays is one little thing that they go through, or teaching about anger in general. It's absolutely nuts, like the way that they portray this stuff. And he can't figure out in the beginning, is Fred Rogers truly the way that he is? Like, is he that person? And you really get a feeling, and maybe some of this is a little bit fantasy in a way, but I've never heard, it's one of those things when you hear about certain people and after they've passed away, and everybody is just like, this is the way that he is, this is the way that he has been, this is Mr. Rogers in general. And it really comes through that way in this film. So just the little scenes that, there's just some really powerful moments in the film. And the most powerful moment, and the one that I had the hardest time getting through in the whole film, and already I can feel myself like fucking tearing up and doing this type of thing because I'm thinking about it again, is that he, the father's in the hospital. He's had an attack at his house when he started yelling at him, because he's there, he's trying to make amends, and he doesn't want to make amends. And then he's there on the, he goes to the hospital because he has an attack, basically. Not quite like a heart attack, but something to do with the sickness that he has. And so, yes, Zach, I'm okay. And so he leaves to go finish his article, because that's the only thing that he really knows how to do, or wants to do in this situation. And he goes back over to Fred Rogers, and he sees him on set, and he has an episode, and then they're eating like Chinese food inside this restaurant. And he says, there's one thing I want you to do with me. And he's like, and it would make me feel so much better if you did it. I just want you to sit there for 1 minute in silence, and with me, think of all the people that made you who you are. And and you literally get a minute of silence in the movie that you are like, you're looking at Tom Hanks as Fred Rogers, and he's just like looking at you, and it's looking at you like you would see Mr. Rogers on the show. And he's looking at the audience like I'm looking at, I'm talking to you. I'm not necessarily talking to this character. It's breaking the fourth wall. I'm talking at you right there, and you are the one that has, I want you also to be involved in this. And it's so powerful, and it's so heart-wrenching and uplifting, and it's nothing but fucking silence in this part of the movie. And I was just completely blown away with the inclusion of that little bit. Um, the others, like there's the scene on the train that you kind of see from the trailers where the kids, they're all singing the song to him, and I'm like, I saw it in the trailer, yeah, but then all of a sudden you see it in the movie and you're just like, okay, that's that hit me a lot more than I thought it was going to hit me. I just like the whole film is so good in those moments, in those short moments and sometimes longer moments. But the other story, the story of him coming to terms with his father's eventual death, and reconnecting to his past and getting past his past, not necessarily getting past, but maybe accepting everything and forgiving. Those parts aren't, except for the ending, those parts aren't as powerful to me as the parts with Fred Rogers. So I really do think this movie is worth a watch, if you get a chance to see it, um, just for the Fred Rogers parts alone, which is a lot of the movie. It is, but just know that there are going to be, I feel like, some groan worthy parts where you're just kind of like, ugh, I wish that wasn't a part of it. Like I wanted, it's not Won't You Be My Neighbor, right? It's not that documentary. That would be something worthwhile watching, that would give you more of just Fred and who Fred is and what he's done, and all of that. But this, I mean, you have to have, because it's a fucking Hollywood film, it's not a biopic. It's really, you have to suspend a little bit of that disbelief in those scenes that are a little bit too cheesy, to get to the awesome fucking meat of this movie, which is Tom Hanks as Fred Rogers. Now, I know that I'm fucking biased because I fucking loved Mr. Rogers as a kid. I have always loved the person. What everything that he stood for, and just like there's that story of Tom Hanks, and he's in Pittsburgh because they did filming some of it in Pittsburgh, and he gets in a cab and he's going, and or Uber or whatever it is, rideshare, I don't know what it is. And so the guy's like, "Oh yeah, Mr. Hanks, so you're doing Fred Rogers, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's all, "Okay, well that's really cool." And then before he leaves, he's all, "Oh yeah, well, one last thing." He's all, "Yeah, what's that?" And he says, "Don't screw it up. We take Mr. Rogers really seriously here in Pittsburgh." And that was kind of my sentiment too. I'm like, oh, I hope they don't screw this up. And I would say that part of the film, they don't screw up. And it's absolutely beautiful the way that it's done. And I just couldn't have asked for a better dramatized version of Fred Rogers than what I saw this evening. So yeah, it's a different film. It's not these action movies that I go see or the horror movies that I go see. This is one of my favorite films of the year. And it's definitely worth your time if you're a big Fred Rogers fan, or you wanted to learn a little more of him and maybe didn't want to sit through the documentary. It gets the philosophy right, so it's definitely worth your time, and you should totally go and see this movie. So I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 tearjerkers, because it still is missing that other umph, and the other actors that are in the movie, while good, it still sometimes is a little bit cheesier than I wanted it to be. But everything else is so great that it doesn't bother me that much. And I know I keep repeating that type of saying the cheesy, because it is. But it's the only way that I can kind of also describe it right now. But I was gonna do it in the car, and I was just like, I just don't know if I'm emotionally. It's so funny for me to say that, but like, I don't know if I was emotionally ready to talk about it, in a way, because right after, even at the ending, like they do during the credits, he's singing, one of his songs, and then they actually show him on the screen, and I was still like tearing up at that point in the movie, even though I had to go to the bathroom really, really bad. The other thing is that it's quite long, but I didn't really feel it, which is always for me when it comes to like a dramatization or a drama film, is always really good. The last thing I'm gonna say is that the AMC that I went to didn't really know what type of trailers to put with this movie, and I wasn't knowing like didn't know what I was gonna expect as trailers with this movie, but you had like Last Christmas, which is already out. And then you had Sonic the Hedgehog as a trailer, and then there was some other. Oh, there was Call of the Wild. What the fuck is up with that? Like that movie. I know I'm totally getting off, but I have to get this off my chest. It's a fucking CGI dog. Like all the animals in it were all fucking CGI. Like that I feel ruins the spirit of that fucking like that fucking story. Like even on the screen, I was just like, I saw the poster and I was like, oh shit, they're doing Call of the Wild and Harrison Ford is going to be the main guy. Oh my god, this is going to be great. And Harrison Ford doesn't look like old like later on Harrison Ford, you know, where it seems like he doesn't give a shit about the like Aliens versus Cowboys Harrison Ford. Where he just looks like a really old man. Like he's meant to be an old man in this, and here we go. But the CGI animals, it just looks so terrible next to everything. And this awesome story, and this is the way that you're gonna do it. You're gonna give this dog all this fucking weird Scooby Doo fucking type of emotion and shit on it. It's just weird. I'd rather have fucking Zach be my the star of that movie or something like that. But yeah, so. Again, past the trailer thing, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, it's a movie to see if you're going to see a type of drama or something this holiday season. And if you were interested in it at all, please go check it out. So with that being said, you know, make sure you check out the podcast. It's not going to be reviews like this, where I'm gushing over, you know, a PBS star. But you can check it out. There is going to be a holiday special coming up that will release on Christmas Day. And we've got 2 movies, Christmas movies this month that we're going to do. They're both horror. And I'm hearing good things about the first one, Sleigh Bells. So I'm looking forward to actually watching that and then checking out the second movie, which you'll find out at the end of that podcast. And then you'll find out what the Christmas special is that day. So when it's released. But thank you guys for watching. If you like what you see, I guess I have to say, like and subscribe down below. And hopefully I'll be back with another type of review soon. All right. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.